Welcome to another episode of a hope-filled highlight. I'm Barbara Lapointe, and I am your coach, mentor, host, and friend today. So delighted to be sitting down with empowerment coach Tanya Fillion. She is a transformation coach, an empowerment coach. She is also a very talented hypnotherapist, and I've known her a long time. She's a lovely, lovely soul who has just created an empowerment language program. So we're going to find out why this might be important and how it might serve you in your life. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Yeah, well, it is so great to have you here because I have to admit that I am so curious about what is an empowering language program with Tanya and why might let's start with that. What is it? What's empowering language program, Tanya?
Okay, thank you for asking that. I recently realized that I wasn't telling a very good story, and when I recognized that everything is energy, even our words. And when I recognized that choosing weak words makes us physically weak and strong words can make us physically strong, how can that change our life? And when you recognize the power of language and you recognize your choice in choosing your language, that's when you get your power. And empowerment language really is life-changing awareness, because once you recognize that words have energy, you have the power to create the reality that you're in. And I want every individual to have that awareness so that we all really have the ability to accept or refuse the language that is being, or the suggestions that are coming to us. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of really good sense because I've recognized the power of languaging for many years, and so have you, because we actually met at an NLP Anthony Robbins seminar many years ago. And so languaging is key. And what I hear you saying is that we can choose consciously the language that either supports us or disempowers us. Is that correct, Tanya?
Absolutely.
So what's so important about shifting to empowering language?
Okay. The power of shifting to empowering language. In the course, I also have combined the energy of the language that we choose with the reality that we're in. So I've combined that with the understanding of Dr. Stephen Cartman's victim drama triangle. And I've identified a number of disempowerment language that instantly identifies a disempowered reality. And when you understand that the language that you choose and how you speak things basically triggers the rules of the mind to do exactly what you want it to do, or do what it thinks you want it to do. And there is a huge difference in that, because, for example, with me, I was 203 pounds and I wanted to lose weight, but I was saying things like, I can't lose weight. Every time I diet, I get sick and or injured. And my mind's like, oh, I can help you with that. Or I can say, why is it so easy and effortless to release this weight? And my mind says, oh, I can help you with that. So part of the empowered language training that I do is helping you understand how to communicate more effectively with yourself and more effectively with others. And it's incredible what the difference is when we choose a higher energy of language that really creates the reality that we want.
I like that so much, because we are always in creation mode. We're always powerful creators. And I don't want to gloss over the fact that you keep using this word energy, and that these words have energy. And I was curious about that when we select language. Like, what do you mean by that? That words have energy?
Okay, thank you so much. I love that question because I love energy. I am an energy healer as well. And I was fascinated with David Hawkins' level of consciousness scale. And I remember one of my mentors saying to choose to live from the energy of love or above. And when I explored that level of consciousness scale further, they talk about people and places being at a certain energy on that level of consciousness scale. And when I recognize that things that are in the lower and negative are force, so it makes things harder. Things in the upper are flow and make things easier. And when I recognize that, when I use language that makes things harder, I started checking in on where they measure in on the level of consciousness scale. And I started recognizing that when I muscle test language, it will either be weak or it will be strong. And so that it combines really beautifully to explore level of consciousness and that energy and the victim triangle to really create a powerful understanding of, okay, what the words that I speak go directly to my subconscious mind, higher self, whatever you want to call it. And that has no judgment. But the energy of the language that I speak to that subconscious mind or higher self will say, okay, thank you. There is no judgment. This is what you're asking for. This is the reality that I will create for you.
It's very desirable to me because we want to create the realities that empower us. And what I hear you saying is that by our language selection or how we choose to allow language to support us, we can become more powerful and life can become easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I am all about easy and effortless. That is why I became a hypnotherapy practitioner. And ultimately, when I speak to my students, I ask them, is the story you are currently telling serving you? For me, and again, everything about me is backing away from judgment. I have played every role in the disempowered pyramid, so there is absolutely no judgment. However, in a disempowered story, every disempowered story I was telling did not serve me. And do I want to remain the victim or any of those characters, or do I want to be a badass? And that is what I hope to share, is your power in your choice.
I like that. So how we can step more powerfully into conscious choice making. And it all comes down to the power of language. It's
Absolutely.
really an exciting program. And we kind of came together when we were talking about being in that victim state and women who are disempowered through divorce, toxicity, where somehow they've become a victim, maybe through narcissistic abuse. And I think, this program could also be really supportive for women like that, women like us that have been through some pretty challenging victim mentalities. So I'd invite you to speak about that. So let me just see how this might work. If I was collapsing into a victim state, maybe I'm even trapped in a victim state where my mind is feeding me weaker vibrational languaging. And then I just stepped into your program. What kind of shifts might I expect, or how could this really help me get out of that victim mentality? And you were talking about a victim paradigm or a victim triangle.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the first thing I always work with is is backing away from judgment, because I basically recognized with myself that I have an allergy to judgment. And the first thing I recognize in a victim triangle is everybody is swimming in judgment. And so as the first thing that we work on is backing away from judgment, and backing away from judging our physical responses to, or physiological responses to judgment. And then building in compassion, because what I have identified is when I was in a victim pyramid, when I was in that disempowered triangle with the victim, the rescuer, and the perpetrator, I was always looking for somebody to make me feel justified and righteous in being angry at that person, or somebody was looking for somebody to be righteous and justified to be angry at me. And this is a very volatile paradigm, so it changes very quickly and fluidly. And the only way to get out of there that I've identified is kindness and compassion. I'm not saying to give kindness and compassion to actively to anyone else in the paradigm, but to start with self-care. And so really, the first thing I love to do is share some breathing exercises. Let's look at how we can build in kindness and compassion, disconnect, give you some biohacks, some natural ways to easily and quickly disconnect those cortisol stress responses. Because in my experience, stress made me stupid, fear made me stupid, and I do not like fear. So cutting off that, disconnecting that fear-based response allows you to breathe. It allows you to think. It allows you to look at the choices. And then I love languaging people into being ready. And so sometimes I've recognized that we are socialized with this language. And so backing people away from judgment on the language we use, because we are socialized in it. And then languaging people to be ready, because we're told so many times, you need to do this, you need to leave him, you need to, and that's judgment, that I feel that judgment. And yet it wasn't until I was ready to do whatever it took that everything changed. And so languaging is powerful, because languaging my clients to be ready to look at the story that they're telling, recognize if it's serving them, and then being ready to do whatever it takes to change the story. And then through the course, I help you to find the language and work on rewriting that story.
I love that. You always come back to the story that we're living or telling ourselves. And you always point out, like, do we want that story to be true? And is that an empowering story? So languaging, what I'm hearing you say is that can support us all the way through that process.
Yes, absolutely. And languaging is very, it's a really powerful tool that I've recognized, because when I first started becoming aware of disempowerment language, it was really hard to recognize that somebody was disempowering me with language and not trigger to that. And so I have built in how to allow for more compassion when we recognize disempowered language, because 95% of the time it's not with an ill intent. It's because we've been socialized with this language for the last how many millennia. And so with the coaching and with the awareness with languaging, it's basically calling on me as a mentor to listen to what you're saying, allow you to feel heard and valued, and then say, okay, so what I'm hearing you say, and look for what we can celebrate for moving towards being ready.
Mm. Yeah, you hold a beautiful space. And sometimes that I have found that when someone holds a really firm space for us, it's easier for us to actually bring awareness to those places that might need some more awareness to that, where we can bring empowered language to our blind spots, so to speak. It's really something we need to do in community or with a coach.
Well, and I love that you brought that up, because that is one of the things with hypnotherapy that I've recognized, is that the mind will only bring forward things for us to release when we're ready. And it's so funny, because I have a client that we were chatting, and I said, so would you play with me and feel the difference between I need to do XYZ and I am ready to do XYZ? And he was like, oh my goodness. He said it felt like the universe just like opened the doors and said, yes, we have been waiting for you to be ready for so long. Okay, let's go. And it was just like this beautiful energy to move forward and heal. And it was waiting for that language that he was ready.
So ask you, that's a great story. And I'd like to ask you to clarify the connection between languaging and mindset. So did that gentleman have a shift in his mindset that was able to allowed him to sort of open the floodgates to, I am ready?
And that is a beautiful question. I'm not sure that I've ever really considered that question before, and yet it's very closely related, because languaging to me is recognizing recognizing the language that is going on, and basically addressing one of the rules of the mind, that the mind likes the familiar and abhors the unfamiliar. And when I language with empowerment language, I am making empowerment language familiar. Now with mindset is more of a, I believe I've got this. And in a sense, saying that you're ready, it's like the race. We don't say need, set, go. We say ready, set, go. And so because you're ready for the race, you've done everything that's required to be prepared, and you say ready, and you run your race, and you set down everything distracting, detracting from the finish line, and then you find the joy. So are they the same? I would say no, because languaging is making empowerment language familiar, whereas mindset is easier to step into in an empowered way with language. So it's more of a symbiotic relationship to me.
That's that's a neat clarification, because we hear a lot about mindset in just in the collective consciousness. It's a word most people are familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've gone through a disempowering relationship, maybe narcissistic abuse or just a toxic relationship, you might have been in a state, I think it's fair to say you've been in a state where you're maybe saying a lot of negative things to yourself, or having a lot of negative chatter or negative thoughts towards yourself. And so your self-love and self-compassion are lower. And you're used to sort of living with that type of inner dialogue, because it's you could have been in this relationship for years and years, or months and months. And so I'm just imagining what it would be like to be in a program like yours, an empowering language program, if previously you were in a relationship with self or a relationship with other person that was abusive, and a lot of the inner language was disempowering.
Okay.
Oh.
because one of the things I have two words. I love going into the writing longer serve. I work with my clients to get them an aware.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is a great question, because what has happened is we've made language that is disempowering familiar. And so when I work with people, I help people connect with that gut response and what is right for us. Because in part of my training in the past with victim services, they gave us this book called The Gift of Fear. I hate that name. I am committed to giving the gift of trust in ourselves. So I connect my clients with recognizing where they feel something that is right or wrong, where they feel it in their body, when I give them examples of disempowered statements and empowered statements in the same right beside each other, so they can feel the difference between that language. Once we feel that language difference and we build in that belief that we can recognize it, and then build on that the ability and tools to allow for boundaries and the self-care to uphold our boundaries, and assign gatekeepers and say, hey, I want you to let me know if somebody is speaking to me with disempowered language, and do it in a gentle, loving, kind way. I don't like 2x4s. However, empowering you with both um, tools to interrupt physiological responses, giving you tools to recognize when you're feeling disempowered language, and giving you tools how to re-language that in your mind so that it allows you to change the narrative, change how you respond, and language in the choice for everyone involved in that situation.
Mm.
Does that?
Yeah, it's really great. I really appreciate that you muscle test the language. And I think that could be really helpful for someone who's been living with empowering language for a long period of time. Um, yeah, very, very helpful, and very helpful to help people shift from a victim to a more empowered state. Um, yeah, I see a lot of gifts in there. So, but what in closing, Tanya, what would be the hope-filled gifts that empowering language could offer women in their lives today?
My hope-filled gift is, one of my favorite things to hear back is when I hear my clients say, I can do that. I've got this. And basically when they've switched to changing their language, I've seen them heal relationships with their children. I've seen them step into standing up to volatile bosses and creating phenomenal businesses. And my hope is that I no longer see women struggling with imbalances of power, where we are so disempowered that sometimes we abuse power in an unhealthy way. Whereas I want women to authentically own their power, because we are strong. We have so many incredible gifts, and I want women to recognize that who they are, they each have a gift. And sorry, I love the diamond analogy, because I do believe that each one of my clients is ultimately a diamond. And all of the all of the abuse, all of the insults, all of the disempowered language that basically acts like putting mud on the diamond. And so as we learn how to change our language, release those fears, release those stories, release everything that's no longer serving us, that's when your diamond can shine and you can be a light for somebody else. And I guess that is my biggest hope, is that I help women shine their diamonds so that they can help other women.
Mm, amazing. And I know that you're offering an empowering language course coming up in the near future. Would you like to
Yes.
share with us how we might connect and become part of that course or offering?
Okay, thank you. You can connect with me on Facebook. I am at TMF Transformations. I will have some links below, and you can always reach out to me. I am currently finishing up my website. You can reach out to me there as well, though. And it will be starting soon. They usually take a month. They are 4 classes live, and the one that I'll be offering here is with empowerment language and Akashic records to support and build on empowerment. And I love this course. So I really hope that some of you join me.
Fantastic. It's been so fascinating to learn about the gift of empowering language. I think this is really important legacy work you're doing. I'm so delighted that you took the time to share this gift with us on Hope Filled Highlights, and I look forward to just seeing where this is going to go.
Yes.
Thank you, Tanya.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara. And I've followed your work, and I love what you do to support women, as it does resonate to me and some of my family history. So thank you for what you do as well.
That's great. I love that we're both impassioned to empower women, that we can expand and step into the very best version of ourselves. We are going to close on that positive and empowering note, wishing every viewer wellness, empowerment, and hope. Until next time, I'm Barbara Lapointe.